now that the vacation rental moratorium has ended, there's a lot of people who are now looking to purchase a vacation rental. But what are the best places to look? And what are the features of a property that you should look for? So in this video, I'm going to talk about some of the best places to look, some of the changes in the ordinance, but also some of the features of a property that you should be looking for, as well as how you actually go about submitting your application to the county in order to get your vacation rental permit. And then also, what are the options when it comes to managing the property? So I've got with me today Lindsay Darriman, who founded Specialised Permitting, and they specialise in working with clients in taking them through the whole process from the point of being in escrow through to getting their vacation rental permit. But she's also got a company called Beau Maison, which is a specialist luxury vacation rental management company. So thank you for joining us today.
Yes, so I'm the owner of Specialized Permitting, where I help homeowners through the short-term rental application process in Sonoma County, and then owner of Beau Maison, where we do short-term, mid-term, and second home management in the Sonoma County area, focusing mainly on Sonoma, Santa Rosa, and Healdsburg currently.
May the 10th, the moratorium ended. And as I'm sure many of you know, some of the rules have changed around, where you can buy a property that will be eligible for operating as a vacation rental. So I thought it'd just be worth touching on some of the rules. Although if you look in the description below, I'll put a link to another video that I did talking about the vacation rental ordinance and the changes that have taken place over the last 12 months. So let's start off talking a little bit about the new ordinance and some of the new rules. And so, Lindsay, what's your take on where we've ended up with the new rules with Sonoma County?
It's been interesting with the changes. So with the moratorium ending, some of the biggest changes are the zoning changes, where R1 is a zoning district that's no longer allowed. That covers a lot of the Russian River. R2 and R3 were already previously banned in the initial ordinance that came out in 2016, and then LIA as well, which is land intensive agriculture. So the next phase that we plan to see with some of these zoning changes are focused potentially on fire perimeters. And then there were caps that were adopted in pockets of the Russian River, Healdsburg, and around Sonoma that will affect the number of permits that will be able to be issued.
And certainly for any buyers who are in the sub $1 million category, I think the biggest impact is probably R1, because a lot of those cheaper homes tend to be R1 zoned. And as Lindsay said, it takes out an awful lot of homes in the very popular Russian River area, including Guerneville and Monte Rio. Although there's definitely still some opportunities in Forestville and then further west out towards Occidental. So I mean, if you're advising people on where they should be looking for a vacation rental in the sort of, say, $1 to $2 million bracket, where would you generally point people to?
Yeah, $1 to $2 million, you have some good options. Basically, you'd be looking around the outskirts of Healdsburg. There can be some possibilities along the Highway 12 corridor and around Santa Rosa. So you definitely have some options there. Even the coast is a great area as well.
And then I think one other option, and I know we've got a mutual client who's just purchased something in Bennett Valley. I think that sort of area, you definitely can, there's some great places you can get between that $1 and $2 million mark.
Absolutely. And that area is a nice feeder road into Glen Ellen, and so you have good access to wineries, so it can be a very popular area. Absolutely.
So we've talked a little bit about the different areas, but let's talk a little bit about what are the features and attributes of a property that makes it a good vacation rental. So Lindsay, you obviously see a lot of properties, you manage a bunch of different properties. Which are the ones that stand out for you as being, successful because of the style and the type and the amenities that the home has?
Right. There are some basic features. I mean, obviously location is important, but as far as amenities of a home, you're looking for, if your home either has a pool or a hot tub, those are obviously attractions to guests looking to stay. Also open floor plans where guests can dine and sit together is a big feature. It's really important to have a nice gathering space. Outdoor dining is something that people look for often. We have great weather here, and so they're always attracted to spending as much time outdoors while they're here as they can.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think it's pretty hard to find a vacation rental without a hot tub. Obviously, putting in a pool is an altogether bigger undertaking. In fact, I was out with a client yesterday at a property just south of Healdsburg, and we're out there with a pool contractor looking to get a quote for putting a pool in. And you shouldn't underestimate the cost of putting in something like a pool. I mean, it's probably $150,000, but it certainly makes a huge difference to the vacation rentability of a property for sure. So maybe at the less glamorous end of features, I know one feature of a lot of properties in Sonoma County unincorporated is good old septic systems. So maybe some people don't like talking about them, but I think it is important to talk about septic systems because they do have quite a big implication and knock-on impact for applying for a vacation rental permit. So it's a pretty complicated subject, and I'm sure you spend a lot of your time on the permit side trying to sort of wrangle your way around septic rules.
Right, yeah. Septic can be a defining factor of how many bedrooms you can get for your vacation rental permit. So it is very important. It also attributes the number of guests that can be accommodated. So depending on the type of system, there are some limitations that will go along with that. So it's really important to look into that septic system and capacity when you are in the buying stage of the property.
And then one of the other features of a septic system, there's certain types of septic systems where if you've got a 2-bed system, you can have 2 bedrooms, sleep 6 with that additional 2 people. But that's not always the case, is it?
Right. There are conditional septic systems, and when you have a situation like that, you do not get the 2 additional guests. So you'd have a 2-bedroom that sleeps 4 for your permit.
So if you do find a property and you like the property, you like the features, you like the location, certainly when you're looking into the property in more detail, it's often during the escrow process, it's super important to dive into the septic system, and that's where I rely very heavily on Lindsay to go down to the county and really understand, what's going on with that septic system, because it can make a big difference to the potential income that you can get on a property. So you found your property, we've got an offer accepted. At what point can you start applying for a vacation rental permit?
You can do a lot of the groundwork for applying for the permit while you're in escrow. So there are small things like you'll have an inspection that's required by a third-party inspector or general contractor to really see that the property is up to building code. So once that inspection is done and any work related to that inspection is completed, then you can really move forward with the permit application process. And that means filling out some basic ownership paperwork. You can't actually submit the application until you've closed escrow with the county, but then at that point you can submit.
And as part of that inspection process, what are the typical things that tend to come up during that process that need taken care of before you can apply for your vacation rental permit?
There are some very typical items that come up, such as GFCI outlets in kitchens, bathrooms, and laundry rooms. I see that at almost every house that I accompany the inspector to. Mounting a fire extinguisher near an egress point, so front door, back door, and then little things like the electrical panel being labeled. So many of those items, maybe except for mounting the fire extinguisher, you can take care of while you're in escrow if the property is vacant. But otherwise, you would want to wait until escrow is closed to complete those and get the inspection signed off on.
It's not like they're sending out a building inspector to check that the building's built to code. It's more just checking on many of the sort of health and safety features of a property.
Exactly. They are checking for things like handrails being the proper height and size, and then around decks that have a drop off of more than 30 inches, they're looking for a railing to be the proper height as well. So there are some building code items, but these are not county inspectors per se. This is a third party. If you're using a general contractor, then they can be the ones to take care of the work as well. So there's some benefits to that. And
so you've had the vacation rental property inspection. Then what are the other things that need to go into the whole application process?
So the septic permit, the most recent one that is on file for the property, would be included with the application, along with some basic ownership documents that include what the parcel number is, how many bedrooms you're applying for, what the parking capacity is on site, and then who your property manager is as well, and who will be filing your transient occupancy tax. So some basic questions there. It's more that the county likes to have those forms filled out a certain way that makes the process a little more detailed than you might anticipate.
And if you are thinking of going through that vacation rental permit application process, And that's where I would strongly recommend, using Lindsay or using somebody who's used to filling out these forms. Because if you submit your form and it isn't correctly filled out, then you might wait, 2 or 3 weeks, the form comes back, and then you've got to start all over again. So certainly, it costs you a little bit of money, but certainly you're much more likely to get your vacation rental up and running quicker and earning income by using an expert such as Lindsay. So once you put your permit application in, how long does the actual process take to you being issued with the permit?
So we've seen a lot of changes in the issuance time over the last year. So we're in new territory now. And at this point, I would anticipate that permits that were recently submitted should be issued within the next 2 months, but they are going through a new process at the county. We have a new business license ordinance that's coming into play soon. And so all of that could change in the next month or 2.
Once you put your permit in, is there any way to know how far down the list you are of potential applicants?
You have a sense. The county has now, the way that permits are numbered, you can tell where you are in the overall line. However, at certain points in the application process, someone's application may be delayed for various reasons, whether it's an adjustment that they need to make to their application, or they simply didn't pay for their permit quickly enough, and so that's delayed it slightly. The county has come out with a tracking tool where you can see where you are in the permit process. However, once you're in the processing stage for your permit, you could sit there for a while that waits to be reviewed by a planner.
So, of course, once you've submitted your vacation rental permit application, you also need to submit for a business license. And there are now sort of new requirements for vacation rental owners when it comes to getting that license. So what are the main things that they're looking out for there?
Some of the biggest things that they're looking at are following the quiet hours. So those were changed from 9 p.m. is the beginning time instead of 10 p.m., having emergency radio on site, a landline, and then a natural person being on the business license. So they've changed that. So there is no corporate ownership allowed currently. So you have to have a natural person either as a trustee of a personal trust or an individual that holds the property and then holds that business license.
So you submit the application for your vacation rental permit, you submit the application for the business license, then hopefully finally you'll get your license to be, ready to open the doors as a vacation rental. But, it takes a lot to get a successful vacation rental up and running. So what are the main sort of setup costs and what are the things that homeowners should think about as they're getting their vacation ready to put on the market?
Yeah, furnishings, we've sort of gotten past the point of COVID delays as far as furnishings. So it doesn't take as long as it did, but you definitely need to factor that in when you're thinking of how much is it going to cost to furnish a property and be ready for short-term rentals. So generally, my rule of thumb is 10 to 15,000 per 1,000 square feet of house that you should allot to furnishings, soft goods like your linens, and then as well as outfitting the kitchen overall.
So that's a considerable cost. If you've got a 2,000 square foot home, then you definitely want to be setting aside, $20,000 to $30,000 worth to actually furnish the whole place.
Exactly.
And one of the other things to think about is, if you're putting an offer in on an existing vacation rental, then the owners will often sell everything in the home. So that's certainly great for people who are looking for very much sort of turnkey vacation rental. And certainly it's always worth asking the question of an existing vacation rental if the owner is happy to, part with all of their furnishings. It's certainly a much cheaper way to furnish a property than buying everything from scratch and buying it from new. So you've got your vacation rental set up, you've got it furnished, but then you need to manage it on an ongoing basis. So what are the different options that you talk to people about when it comes to managing their vacation rental?
Yeah, so with the new business license, there is the option to manage yourself, which I think will be very attractive to some homeowners. They removed a requirement where your property manager has to be within 30 miles of the property. So that will allow some homeowners to manage from afar, especially the marketing, some basic questions from guests, but they do want to have someone who is a boots on the ground person to handle any issues that may arise that need to be addressed in person. So that's one option. And then obviously full service management is another option where you have a local company that just soup to nuts, handles everything, marketing, emergency calls, and then any maintenance that's needed at the property. And then you can generally find some hybrid in between. There are some companies that will handle a boots on the ground aspect, more of a hybrid setup where they'll take care of the maintenance and things in the home that need to be attended to, but don't necessarily interact with guests.
I was talking to Daniel Rusting the other day, who's an influencer in the vacation rental space, and he's got a new book out called Profitable Properties. And he's got a property it's actually in Colombia, and he's taken the full service to the next level. And his property is in a place where people go to party. So he actually offers a full breakfast at a time to suit the guests as part of the whole vacation rental package. So I thought it was really interesting just thinking about how you can actually, differentiate your vacation rental from, the other vacation rentals in the area. So that's definitely always something to think about is how do you really sort of fine tune the experience for guests. So if you are thinking about buying a vacation rental, definitely a few things to think about is certainly, think about, the area that you're buying it in. Obviously there are some new rules in place. There's certainly, I always remind people there's a lot more properties that do qualify for a vacation rental permit in Sonoma County than don't. So there are really still some great options available, even though the rules have tightened up slightly. When you are doing your due diligence on a property, make sure you look into all the details and make sure you understand, what is the septic system, because there's a number of things that could have an impact on you actually getting a permit. So the final thing I was going to say is if you do submit your application, definitely make sure that you go through it really carefully or work with an expert who's used to submitting these applications the whole time, because, it can cost you so much money if you actually submit it incorrectly. So good luck in your search. If you want to see other videos all about vacation rentals, how to set them up, the different areas to purchase a vacation rental in, then check out the description below and I'll put some links to other videos.